Sports-Ump. Plenty of time on the shot clock. Brunson, drive, swing, hard. He connects! Huge three! Knicks lead! New York leads by 3. Batum to toss it in. Floats it. Hield. Throws it up. It's off. Hart rebounds and it's over. This war of attrition is won by the Knicks.
As accurately predicted.
By you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dusty. That's my boy. That's my Dusty. Yes, sir, Bobby Cakes. Yes, yesterday I predicted both the series to end. You and I both accurately predicted the Pacers to finish it, but you thought the Knicks and Sixers would go 7, and I know Sixer fans were hoping you were right, but it did not happen last night. That was a crazy game. That series was crazy. The Knicks pick up a 118-115 win over the 76ers Philadelphia to win that series in 6 games 4-2, but it was closer than that. Do you know what the total points scored in the series were between the two teams? The differential? The differential between the two teams?
The differential, I'll say 3 points.
1 point.
1 point, wow.
1 point. Jalen Brunson, another big game, 41 points, 12 assists, double-double. It took less than 10 minutes for the Knicks to build a 22-point lead. They're up 33-11, the largest one that either team had held in the series. And it took less than 13 minutes for the Sixers to erase it. That is the modern-day NBA game now. And Sixers reserve Buddy Hield, who hadn't played since the first half of Game 3, scored more points, 17 in the second quarter, than the entire Knicks roster did. He earned Buddy chance during a 43-16 run. Philadelphia was the first team in 25 years to lead at the half after trailing by 20-plus in a playoff game. But Josh Hart hit that wide-open three, as you just heard, with 27 seconds left to put the Knicks up for good, 114-111. Last-second three-pointer was off the mark. Knicks beat the Sixers 4-2 by outscoring by just 1 point overall in the series. Knicks will face the Pacers in the second round as Indiana won big over the Bucks despite Damian Lillard's return, 120-98 the final there. Tonight there are 2 more Game 6s on the schedule. In the East, the Cavs lead the Magic 3-2. Game 6 in Orlando at 6 o'clock on ESPN. Game 6 of Mavericks and Clippers, 8:30 on ESPN in Dallas. The Mavericks are up 3-2 in that series. Welcome to the Sports Ticket, brought to you by Kiefer Brothers Automotive in Beloit, your home for fast, friendly auto repair. Coming up, we got some local sports information. We got our athlete of the week, another high school athlete that's going to be competing at the collegiate ranks. We're going to talk Royals baseball, a minor league baseball team doing something nobody's ever done before, how KU is kicking butt in the transfer portal when it comes to men's basketball, and we'll talk NHL playoffs, as well as my trip to the dentist. That's all coming up here on the ticket. I'll say, let's go ahead and get our predictions out of the way. Yesterday I was 2-0. Dusty's 1-1. I'm going to push the envelope. I should just be quiet, end it, don't even predict anything for tonight. I'll pick the first game. I'll let you pick the second game first, okay? In the East, Cavs lead the Magic 3-2. I think the Magic win Game 6, and they force a Game 7 in Cleveland. The home team has won every game so far.
Yeah, I'm going to pick Cleveland.
You're going to pick them to close it. All right.
Yeah.
I like your way of thinking. Game 6, Mavericks Clippers, 8:30 on ESPN tonight in Dallas. Mavs up 3-2.
Mavs
going to close it.
I think they're both going to close tonight.
You think they're both?
Just like last night, the two
games.
They're
going to both close?
Yeah.
See, I think the Clippers are just setting themselves up for failure. They're going to win tonight, and then they're going to choke Game 7 because James Harden, Mr. Reliable clutch in Game 7s, of course. So I'm going to say the Mavs don't get it done in Game 6. The Clippers win Game 6. Game 7, the Mavs win in L.A. and just keep the road thing going there. So we'll see. Hey, local sports, there's baseball yesterday. It was senior night in Salina for Beloit. And the reason that happens is because of the rain that we had, and Beloit has a dirt infield or grass infield with dirt and everything else. And so they kind of had to try to move things around because, and here's the thing, people don't understand. The first thing that people thought, and I understand it, when your games are postponed and you think you're not going to play on Thursday, you're like, well, just play on Friday. Well, there's a thing called umpires. You need them. And
yeah, they're important.
Friday was not an option. Today was not an option to have the games in Beloit today. And I don't know if it would have dried out enough anyway. But there weren't going to be umpires to do the games. They're all doing other stuff today. So for Beloit to get those games in, because regionals start next week, and nobody's going to reschedule for these games next week, more than likely, they worked it out. Kyle Baza, athletic director, and Beloit did a tremendous upgrade to their facilities for baseball. We went to Dean Evans Stadium or field there in Salina off Markley Street to the south of the Salina Municipal Golf Course. course, if you don't know where that is. Nice facility, all turf. The infield, the outfield, all turf. And so it was senior night, so my wife and I, we got to go down with my son, so I actually got to get on the field, and take pictures, which I know my senior son loves to do all of that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
He's like, good, now I can eat. But anyway, there was a doubleheader, but it was senior night in Salina because of the weather, so they at least got the games in. And the first game, Sacred Heart won 7-1. Beloit had a lot of really great defensive plays, had multiple double plays, throwing guys out at the plate, so forth and so on. But they lost 7-1. Just couldn't get the bats going. Evan Bogart's a very good pitcher for Sacred Heart. Sacred Heart came in 16-2. Really hadn't played anybody that great. I mean, they had beaten Ellsworth 12-11. Ellsworth's a solid team, but they lost 2 to TMP. So Sacred Heart was 16-0, then lost 2 to TMP. So I'm sitting there like their record might be a little bit deceiving. And Beloit, game 1 just couldn't get the bats going. Really good pitcher. It happens. Game 2, Beloit should have won. I mean, game 2, Beloit had 1,000 opportunities to win the game, but they lost to Sacred Heart in the nightcap 4-3. Sacred Heart clinched the outright league title in game 1. Had Beloit won both games yesterday, they would have tied for a league title, which I didn't realize that. I hadn't been following the baseball part as much. Had a lot of things going on in my life. I didn't really focus on that, including a trip to the dentist. But so the last game 1, Sacred Heart clinched the league title at that point, and then game 2, Beloit was up 2-0. It was 2-2, and then had a defensive lapse or two, and then they're down 4-2. Jackson Weston came on relief and pitched great, and but Beloit they had runners at second and third, nobody out. And some youth showed up on the base paths. There was a grounder back to the pitcher, and the kid, I don't want to name names and throw anybody under the bus here. I'm not trying to do that. But inexperience. I mean, anyway, a freshman got caught between third and home, went a little too far. Next thing you know, the kid at second, who was also a freshman, runs towards third. So now you got 2 kids getting close to third. So then the kid runs back to second, and then our other kid runs down towards home. So then they throw to second, and our kid dives into second and gets tagged out. And then our guy that was between third and home wasn't down the line far enough, then they throw home and it's double play. So we ran ourselves out of the inning. We had runners at second and third, and next thing you know, it's double play, 2 outs, and there was just a grounder to the pitcher. So you learn from those things. Obviously, if your young players getting those opportunities, and I know they feel bad that happened, and it happens. Everybody made mistakes last night. It happens pretty much every game. And then Beloit had the bases loaded with nobody out. And in high school baseball, you usually do that. You're going to score something. Pop up, strikeout, ground ball, didn't score a single run. I thought, that's that. 7th inning, bottom of the 7th, because Beloit's the home team, remember, even though they're in Salina, senior night and all that. And they score a run, have the bases loaded with 2 outs. Their freshman left-handed pitcher came in to try to close it, and loaded bases. He walked a guy to force in a run. So it's 4-3, bases loaded, 2 outs. And they bring in a relief pitcher. You talk about a tough spot. Game on the line, 4-3, bases loaded, tying run at third, game-winning run at second, base hit, game's probably over. We win, everybody celebrates. And he struck out our guy looking, and we left the bases loaded. I mean, we had thousands of opportunities to win the game. But one thing I want to talk about was with Beloit, had some amazing defensive plays last night. Lance Lundeen had a catch and then a throw out at home from deep center field. Almost a heck of a throw. And he made an amazing diving catch, just like you see on Sports Center. I mean, it was a web gem. It should be on top 10. I ain't kidding you. He dove, timed it perfectly on the turf and slid. It was awesome catch. Then my son had an awesome catch in left field. He dove and robbed him of a hit. Beloit had a lot of really good defense yesterday. And the pitching I thought was fine or even good. But they just couldn't get the bats. They couldn't get the big hit when they really needed it. And they scalded a few balls. I mean, deep center field, deep right field, one to deep left field, and Sacred Heart made the plays, positioned about right. And so sometimes, and the reason I'm sharing the story, sometimes in sports you can do some things right and you just have bad luck. Yeah. And then sometimes you get a swinging bunt and you reach. But you scald a ball and the shortstop jumps and grabs it and you're robbed of a hit. Baseball is very frustrating because if you're the good hitters hit 300, that means they fail 7 out of 10 times. And so that's why it's so hard to hit 400. in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
Because if you just get robbed of about 5 hits over the course of a season, you're not going to hit 500. You need those to usually fall or get scored a hit where maybe it was an error and the official score helps you out a little bit. So I don't think we're going to see a guy hit 400 ever again in Major League Baseball unless the rules change because of the specialization of pitchers and how hard they throw, and you don't get to see a pitcher a third time very often anymore. But a shout out to the Beloit the defense yesterday. I thought it was pretty doggone good, and there were some top 10 web gems that they could have on baseball tonight. Unfortunately, just couldn't get the bats going. Couldn't get that hit when they needed it. And I said to a few people after the game, you know what? Just get it out of the system now. Because regionals start next week, and Beloit, I don't believe they've ever been the state in baseball. So
No, I don't think so.
So I don't know when the seeds will come out, when the brackets will come out, but Beloit will have to go to Marysville because, once again, shortage of umpires. Normally, Beloit would be hosting a first-round game. But because of umpires also doing 4, 5A, and 6A regionals, they have to double dip sometimes and do these other classifications as well. Mm-hmm. So all you people that are listening out there that are guilty of screaming and yelling and making life hell for umpires and officials, you're to blame for this. Now, I will say, full disclosure, last night, the unplayed umpire for the first game, strike zone, was very inconsistent. And there was a couple of times I did yell out and said, how about some consistency? I said that one time, and then blew a call at home where we threw a kid out, and he was out. He got tagged on the shoulder. We had a better angle than the umpire did, and he called him safe. How, I don't know. And then later, and it happened to be my son that gunned him down. I was not happy because that robbed him of a great play. And then later, I think it was the next game, he gunned a kid down at the plate, and I thought he might have been safe, and they called him out. Talked to my son last night when he got back from Salina. I said, yeah, you should have had 2 guys thrown out at the plate, 2 outfield assists, but they missed the call on the one. He says, well, I think the second he was actually safe. That's a makeup call, I guess. I said, well, could be. I don't know. But anyway, a couple good throws to home plate. But just think about this for a second, all right? Because of a shortage of umpires, I'm just talking baseball right now. This could apply to softball. It could apply to basketball officials. It can apply to football officials. How many times have we seen football officials have high school games already moved to Thursdays or Saturdays, or, hey, we got the same officials for junior high, and then we'll go right into a high school game. Why? Because you don't have enough officials. Why do we not have enough officials? Because there's plenty of people on earth. It's because people don't know how to control themselves.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it.
And they make it horrible for officials, and they say it's not worth it. And if they're a young person, I hope that they at least try. And if they have thick skin, you have a chance. You cannot have thin skin and be an official. You have no chance. If you have thin skin, you have no chance. You have to have thick skin. You have to be like that commercial. Let your wife yell at you for an hour straight while you're watching TV and just block her out. Or vice versa. You could be a woman official and block your husband out, okay? Or the kids, whatever it may be. Mom, I need the laundry done. Dad, you just block it out. You completely ignore them, okay? And then you got a chance to be probably a pretty good official. But just think about the trickle-down effect. And this is much worse in other areas. But I think Kansas is starting to feel it. And there's no doubt in the last couple of years. But just to talk about this specific situation, there's not enough umpires to move a game from Thursday to a Friday because of weather.
Yeah.
There's not enough umpires so that Beloit, who has earned, I think they're still a top 4 seed in the regional, should be playing at home. The seniors, and I say this because I am a senior parent, my son and the other seniors should have one more game at home, and they will not, from what I've been told, because of the umpire situation. Mm-hmm. And whose fault is that? It's not the umpire's fault. It's not the athletic director's fault. It's not my kid's fault. It's not the team's fault. It's the general society and the people that are the jackasses out there that have no idea how to control their emotions and make it all about them and lose their mind over a thing called a game. Nobody lives or dies with a game. If you do, you really need to go seek professional help. Okay? Now, what's sad is you've gotten instances where there's been altercations and horrible things that have happened. Physical assaults right on camera. Like, what are you thinking? Yeah. You have rage issues. You have mental issues. Those sane people don't do that. And so the trickle down effect is things like I'm just talking about. Harder to reschedule a game 24 hours later because if you had a plethora of officials, not a problem. Harder, and you got scrambled to move a game to Salina. And luckily, those umpires, even though the first one didn't think was the greatest home plate umpire, okay, but you know what? I'm not perfect either. But at least those guys are available because we don't have them. We don't have games. So I shouldn't be too critical of having an inconsistent strike zone when, without them, we don't get to play those games last night at all. 2 less games for the seniors and the team. And we got a break between games until regionals. So we got to be thankful we could at least make them up, go to Salina and do it on a beautiful field in a facility. And you had umpires willing to do the games last night and probably change their schedules because that was not designed to be in Salina. It was a 5:15 start because there was high school Salina Central's practicing ahead of that on the field, and they were able to work with everybody to shorten their practice, which was great. So we got everybody to work together so at least the games got in. Was it ideal? Would you like to have it at home on senior night? Sure, you would. But at least they got them in. But there was a lot of extracurriculars that had to happen and take place to get all that done, and none of that stuff would have had to have been done more than likely, unless it was too wet to play today, had it been we had plenty of umpires or officials or whatever the case may be. You're seeing more and more C team, JV, freshman games getting either canceled, moved to weird times and days just to get them in because you have a lack of officials. And listen, we're all guilty probably at one point or another of yelling at an official or being upset. It's just kind of the human nature. But there's a difference between, saying, hey, how about some consistency, ump? And I'm not saying I'm a perfect person, by the way. Or what are you talking about? I think one time I said, open your eyes. When they blew the call at home, I'm like, dear God, everybody in the field saw it. But whatever, he missed it. He missed it. Easy for me to say. I'm not saying I'm the greatest fan. I don't have a lot of practice at it. I'm usually on the radio, so I can't do these things. My excuse, which is rationalization, is I don't get to do it often. So what? I'm allowed to? No, I'm not. I'm doing better than anybody else. Just because I do games on the radio doesn't mean I should get to yell twice as much because I get half as many games to be a parent. That's a weird way to rationalize, but that's how some people do it. But there is a line. It's okay to maybe question a call as a fan or to go, that was inside. Whoa, you missed that one. But then all of a sudden when it becomes cussing, screaming, constantly yelling, getting into an umpire's face, screaming so loud that the umpire turns and warns you or he's going to eject you. And then the worst thing, of course, is when the umpires get to go to their cars and wonder if somebody's going to assault them.
Yeah.
And that's how bad things have gotten. So if you are one of those people that is part of the problem and you know it and you might not want to admit it, guess what? You don't have to admit it to me, okay? But admit it to yourself and be better. Because the people that have not been better have caused the problems we have just like this, to where teams that, and then, trust me, Beloit won't be the only one. There'll be others that have, worked hard enough and are good enough to have a first-round game at home. Or other sports where these kids' games shouldn't be eliminated or postponed. Well, not postponed. Postponed means you made them up. But canceled because we have a lack of officials. That's not the fault of the officials. It's you and me. Look into a mirror and see what you see. That's who you should point the finger at.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think any of us are above at some point in our life saying something we probably shouldn't have to an official.
Sure.
I always, it's funny you said that you don't have a lot of practice, because like the few times that I would get a chance to watch my nephew play when he was in high school at Newton, I'd go down and sit by my sister and some of their friends and stuff, and something would happen in the game, and I'd undoubtedly be like frustrated with something, right? And I'd say something a little bit louder than I probably should have. Right. And I'm like, this is why they put a headset on me during high school basketball games. Right. I'm like, I don't have to worry about this when I've got the headset on and I'm calling the game. So, and I tell you what, I've been to some summer games where it was more. It wasn't the officials; it was the teammates that were on the team that I was like, pass the ball or yelling that too loud or something, and some stuff like that. So I get that part of it, but yeah, there's no doubt that there are things that contribute to a shortage of officials. One of them could be some of them are at retirement age, they're ready to hang it up.
Not enough young people coming in.
And then you add in the fact that all this is happening with, unruly parents or fans or whoever they are.
Right? Even and by the way, you could add coaches. Some coaches lose their minds too.
Yeah, and you see a lot of that in the summer ranks too,
yes,
right?
Traveling ball in
coaches,
particular.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that contribute to that, but in the end, that contributes a lot, because if you're losing them and you're not having anybody volunteer because they don't want to take that abuse, that's how you have a shortage of officials. Yes. And so, it's not just that, but that's the key contributor in the end, because people aren't wanting to do it because of that.
I will add this, and I'm not sharing this to pat myself on the back, but I do feel good when I do this. Okay. And I would recommend that more people do this, and maybe people can do it even better than I do it. But this year, after baseball games, there have been times where at a Beloit game, I see the umps, they're changing after games, or they're getting ready for game 2. Okay. And it happened at Abilene. We were in the parking lot, and after the games were over, the umps, and listen, they weren't perfect. They missed calls, but you know what? Nobody's perfect. But I thought they did a pretty good job in all of those. And last night, I would have said the same thing if I would have seen those umpires last night. And like I said, I thought the first game was inconsistent at plate. That's just my opinion. Most people agreed with me, but that doesn't mean we're all right. But that doesn't mean that I wouldn't have still said thank you, because I would have. Because without them, we wouldn't have games made up last night in Salina. Wouldn't have had a senior night at all. So I'm thankful for that. But what I've tried to do, and I've been able to do a little bit in basketball, not very often, because they kind of run off the floor and you don't see them. Baseball, you got a better chance of thanking them and seeing them in the parking lot, but that also makes them more exposed to nutheads. But I've actually seen them, made eye contact with them, I say, hey, Blue, or hey, umps, thank you. Thank you for umping. Or good job, appreciate you. I've done that multiple times this year, more so than I've ever done before. Maybe it's just because I've run into them more often. I don't know. But I've done that. And I would encourage and implore all of you that are listening to this show right now that go to high school events, junior high events, or any sporting event for that matter. It could be traveling sports too. Doesn't matter. Whatever sporting event it is, if you have an opportunity and you run across an umpire or a basketball official, or maybe they're not even doing the game, but they're an official, thank them. Mm-hmm. I think you might be surprised how much it means to them, because when I said thanks to the Abilene umpires, I could tell that meant something. And I could also tell that not a lot of people do that. Yeah. Not a lot of people tell them thanks. Because if you have a problem with the umpires, what do? You might just, verbally assault them in the parking lot. But if they did a really good job, people just see them and get in their car and don't say anything. Mm-hmm. And like we've said, you've done a good job as an official when nobody says anything to you. That's actually a compliment. And so I've been very thankful over the years as a broadcaster to have a headset on my ears so I don't hear as much. One of the things that is annoying to me when I get to sit in the stands as a fan, I like it. It's a change of pace. But one of the annoying things for me is that now I got to hear the drivel and garbage that people shout and say during games because my headset's not on my ears. So, even last night, I'm not going to sit here. I don't agree every time our own fan base argues a call. I don't. I try to be objective. I'm like, people react to almost every pitch. I'm like, it was inside. It was outside. And by the way, if you're sitting way off the first base side, do you think you have the proper angle to call a pitch? No, you don't. Your best play, if you have a better chance of being constructively critical if you're sitting behind home plate. If you're 10 rows, 5 rows, 15, 30 rows straight behind home plate, you have a better chance of knowing whether it's a strike or a ball. You still don't, because you're not eye level. You're not right behind the catcher like the umpire. But I love when people are from a gigantic, severe angle and somehow know that hit the corner or not. You don't have that capability, because if you did, then we'd have umpires in the stands calling games and wouldn't have to even go onto the field. Yeah. So it always cracks me up. But last night we had a coach, won't name names, but if they're at the game, they know who I'm talking about. But the first game was way more controversial in regards to balls and strikes and call at the plate. Second game, I thought it was better, definitely a lot better. Second game, there was a call. It was a letter high strike. And to me, it's borderline. And I thought the umpire was fairly consistent with it second game. Not perfect, but nobody is, like I said. And the letter high strike is questionable for people. Some people, as fans, think it's a strike. Some people think it's a ball. And when it's your pitcher, you, of course, think it's a what? Strike. Yeah. When it's the other team's pitcher, you're mad because it's called a ball. It's like it's the same damn pitch. So you need to be consistent as well if you can be objective, which most people are not. And so my thing is, if it's a letter high strike, it's borderline, and he calls it a strike, cool. Then let's call it all the way. If he calls it a ball, he calls it a ball. Not a problem. And so there was a pitch that was a little bit, it was borderline, letter high strike. I thought it was a strike. I had no problem with it. And our kid took it for strike 3. And one of our coaches starts chirping at the home plate umpire about the call. And it's game 2. Like, where the hell were you why weren't you arguing game 1? Game 1 was the one where you really needed to fight, because game 1 was way more from both sides. were a lot more questionable calls at the plate, balls and strikes. You're not supposed to argue balls and strikes. And the umpire, to his credit, and I heard a few of our Beloit fans actually support the umpire, he immediately told our coach, he said, hey, that's your warning, no more. Mm-hmm. And I love umpires that take charge. And you need to take charge. And you know what? Put people back where they belong. And that is, if a coach is going to chirp too much, you put them back in their place real quickly. If a fan's going to continue to be a jackass in the stands, you need to turn and tell them next time you're out of here. And if that shuts them up, so be it. The only problem is, in some of these situations, that for most people, the sane people, I call them, for those people, they might go, okay, I've gone too far. I'm going to shut up now. Mm-hmm. But there are some people nowadays that just antagonizes them even more to be more of a jerk and be louder and like press the issue as if they're, a thrill seeker trying to get ejected. So they can tell people they got ejected. I don't know why you do it. But I do appreciate umpires that take charge. The problem is with your younger umpires or younger officials, they don't have as much credibility or experience. So it's harder for them, I think, to feel comfortable taking charge. And you know what happens then? People run over them.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they go to a point where they're like, okay, I can't. It's gone too far, and I can't put the genie back in the bottle. Next thing you know, things got a hand at a game, or you just say, you know what? I'm not going to ump. I'm not going to officiate. I'm done. And next thing you know, what do you have? Less officials, and you have problems getting games scheduled and getting games played. So that would be my 2 cents on all of that.
Yeah, that happens at all levels too.
Yes.
There's officials that have control of the game, and there's the ones that don't.
No.
And the ones that don't, those you can tell. Some of those games get out of hand pretty fast.
It goes south
in every sport, right?
Yes.
Like it doesn't matter, basketball, football. Football seems to be one of the worst ones, really, if you don't actually have control of something.
Yeah.
And just let things keep going, and then you get into people energy's charged in a football game anyway, right? And so I've seen some of the football games where, at the high school level especially, where they've lost control of it, and there's personal fouls everywhere happening because they didn't have control of it, and now they've got to throw more flags, and then they're trying to fix it too late. And so those things happen. But you do have to have, there's a lot of characteristics that you have to have as an official, an umpire, whatever you're doing, that are not necessarily something it's easy for everybody to do, obviously. Mm-hmm. And so you've either got to, it's hard to learn it, I would think. You got to have a lot of that in you already.
Oh, yeah.
And so if you do, then some of the best officials they're going to have control of it from the tip. They're going to have control of it from the moment, like in a basketball game when you meet at the middle of the court, when you meet for the coin toss for football. They're going to have control of all that right away, and people are going to know it. Like I know when I was in high school, there was one official that's like, he's got control of this game, and I'm not trying to rock his boat.
Yeah.
And so it's like I'm not going to mess around with it. Yeah. So I think back when we were playing, there was probably a lot of those guys, though, that you weren't going to mess around with. But there's always that one that comes to my mind. But it's like you have to have something innate within you, I think, to have that authoritatively, I guess.
Yes. No, I agree with you. So Sacred Heart sweeps Beloit yesterday in baseball. Sacred Heart won Game 1, 7-1. Game 2, Beloit had many, many chances, but Sacred Heart prevails 4-3. Sacred Heart's now 18-2. They go undefeated in the league at 10-0. Beloit finished in a 3-way tie for second in the league. They're 12-8 overall. I just pulled up the records on the Acacia website, the Marysville High School Regional, for instance, and right now Ellsworth will be the 1 seed. It looks like they pretty much have that locked down. And Nemaw Central, if they would go ahead and win both games against Marysville on Monday, when does the seeds come out for baseball regionals?
I'm not 100% sure
because
they've changed the date.
Yeah, right. Because
usually it's like the Wednesday ahead of the next week.
Yeah, so I don't know if the Nemaw Central Marysville games will count towards the standings or not on Monday. Marysville's got makeup games Saturday, tomorrow against Chapman, and then they got makeup games Monday against Nemaw Central. So Marysville's got 4 games to play. But I bring up Marysville because Ellsworth's number 1, Nemaw Central right now is number 2. Beloit's the 3 seed. Looks like they're probably locked in the 3. Nemaw Central gets swept by Marysville, then they move up to the 2. Southeast Saline is the 4 seed. Looks like they're pretty solid there. And then Sylvan Lucas, Lincoln is a 5, and Marysville's a 6. But they'll probably be an underdog in most of those games I just referred to. Riley County 7, Minneapolis 8. But think about this, and it goes back to, I'm talking about umpiring, shortage of officials, so forth and so on. Beloit right now, if the season ended right now, Beloit would be the 3 seed, Marysville would be the 6 seed, and that game should be in Beloit. Mm-hmm. Instead, guess what? Marysville hosted.
They got to go to their place.
They got to go to their place.
Yeah.
That's not right. That's not right. A team that is 5-11 should not be hosting a 12-8 team. But since Marysville hosts the regional, that game will be played.
That's where you get into the problem of, for the rest of them.
If you don't know,
game,
from
right?
what I've been told, you take, in this situation where you play it all at the site, how'd that work? That they can pick 2 sites to have the games, and it's the top seed and or the host seed, I think is how it was explained to me. So Ellsworth's the 1 seed, and then Marysville hosts the other games or something. I don't remember all of it, but a little confusing. But the bottom line is, what I've been told by many people in the know is, Beloit's not going to have a home game, so that would mean they have to play Marysville in Marysville, more than likely.
Yeah, and that's the downside of having a tournament like that at any point in time. Like, say, Marysville, even in sub-state basketball or something like that, and they get up, they upset the 3 seed or something. Just as an example,
right? They host the
they host
semis
6
and finals.
taking on a 2,
right?
and they get to be at home.
True.
So, but
the first round game, you're still on the road in basketball.
At home,
whereas here, Beloit would have to go on the road when they shouldn't.
Yeah,
but it's tied to, from what I've been explained, umpires working a lot of 4A, 5A, 6A, and that's part of why you got to reshuffle the desk in regard to schedules, because of the lack of officials. It's not easy, and the fans are not helping the cause. I mean, there are good fans out there. I'm not talking about you, but the ones who I'm talking about. All right, Ellsworth Golf Invitational.
Yeah, Ellenwood took the team championship there yesterday. Jake Mooney from Russell was the individual champion, top area athlete. Luke Cheney finished 14th for Beloit. You can find the full results for that at ncssports.com. So, yesterday was kind of a bit of a slower day. There'll be more activity today as far as high school sports are concerned. Softball, Beloit is hosting Republic County this afternoon at 4 o'clock. They're in Beloit in the doubleheader. And track and field, a lot of our area teams will be out on the courses or track or field today. Rock Hills Invitational at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Lakeside, Osborne, St. John's, Tipton. Rock Hills, Smith Center, and Thunder Ridge competing there in Mankato. And then the Southeast Saline Invitational this afternoon at 3 o'clock. Beloit will be competing there. And the Thompson Relays, hosted by Lincoln at 3 o'clock this afternoon, as well as the host school, Sylvan Lucas, Southern Cloud, will both be there from the area. Riley County Golf Invitational was moved from yesterday to today in Leonardville, so that'll be this afternoon at 1 o'clock, as it'll be Lakeside, St. John's, Rock Hills, Pike Valley, and Southern Cloud from the area competing there. And the Hill City Invitational at 3 o'clock, Osborne competing in high school golf here this afternoon. Do have an athlete of the week, and this person has just been on a tear to start the 2024 spring sports season in track and field. Beloit Junior Tatum Seifert has been named the NCCSports.com Cunningham Cunningham Fiber, I should say. Athlete.
Stop it!
I'm not the only one that's done that.
I have never messed that up, and I never will. Honestly, I did it 3 times typing.
I always do the. So the athlete of the week, I always read the first part of it, and then at the end of it, I just add this is our, athlete of the week. And last night I did it 3 times when I came in to do my sports. Because if you don't know, I don't do that sportscast actually at 7:30 in the morning because I'm not here.
Dusty's not exactly a morning person, although technically he is. He's up late enough to where it's morning hours. But then
it was morning when I left.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I should point that out. Yes.
I had to do it 3 times because I kept saying telephone. So we'll get used to it, right? Beloit Junior Tatum Seifert has been named the NCCSports.com Cunningham Fiber Athlete of the Week after an outstanding sophomore year in which she won the state title in the 3A shot put and discus. She's off to an outstanding start in both of those events here this year, and none better than what happened last week at the Beloit Relays for her. She set a new meet record in the shot put with a throw of 45 feet 7 inches, breaking a 15-year-old meet record of 43.7 1/4 by Kayla Smith of Concordia in 2009. So beat it by almost 2 feet there in the shot there last Friday in Beloit. She also won the discus with a season high and season best throw of 137.1. She's competed in 12 events this year, 11 gold medals and 1 bronze medal. The only bronze medal was at the pre-state challenge in the discus there at Wichita State against a bunch that was an all-class thing. So it was a lot of competition that she saw there, and that's her only non-gold medal this year. She's got 11 gold medals, has won the shot put at every event: Concordia, Smith Center, pre-state at Wichita, Belleville, Lions Club, Phillipsburg, and Beloit. So again, first place in discus in all of those events as well, except for pre-state at Wichita. So congratulations to Tatum Seifert, our NCKSports.com Cunningham Fiber Athlete of the Week.
Somehow, some way, the genes work for that family.
I guess.
And Casey was a decent thrower. Just decent.
Yeah.
And then Grady was okay. Yeah, and then Tatum's just way better than all of them. But they all three amazing throwers. I mean, I just hope that, I wonder if the Seiferts ever thought about this. Casey, Grady, and now Tatum. I think there's a future for them to be bouncers. They can take people and see how far they can throw them who act like idiots in a bar or establishment. Or, you know what? Let's take it one step further to tie in what we just talked about prior to all of this. Let them be security at ball games, and as soon as a fan pipes up, the umpire doesn't have to turn and warn them. Just have the Seiferts pick them up physically and throw them into a pickup bed truck from 50 feet away.
Yeah.
See how far they can throw them. Okay, it'd be fun. I think even the Seiferts might enjoy that.
They might,
Yeah, especially with certain people.
Yeah. All right, you can read more about Athlete of the Week and nominate an Athlete of the Week any chance you get to nccastsports.com. You can also, at nccastsports.com, read about Gracie Reiner, who has signed a national letter of intent to compete in track and field at Pittsburgh State University. She signed it yesterday there. She'll throw the javelin there for the Gorillas at Pitt State. She's off to a great start.
Pitt State, baby! I knew the Reiners are smart.
I was waiting for something.
But Gracie's smarter than everybody because she's going to Pitt State. Where'd Cullen go? Jazz Tech? I don't remember where he went.
That was before my time.
Northwest Tech Community College,
sure.
which I shouldn't put that down. Northwest Community Tech College. There's probably one somewhere in the world. I'm sure they're a fine institution.
There's Northwest Tech actually out in Goodland as part of the Jayhawk Conference.
Well, then, not knocking you, but Gracie, very smart. She's already a 4.0. I don't even have to look at her grades. She's going to Pitt State. That's awesome. Okay, proceed.
She's a lot like Tatum, right? Competing in a lot of events and winning a lot of gold medals. She's competed in 6 events so far this spring and captured 4 gold medals, silver and a bronze. And so she's had an outstanding year there. Her top throw was actually a second-place finish against a very stacked field at the Beloit Relays last week at a 137.8. She's qualified and medaled at state all 3 years so far, and maybe I'm projecting for the 4th year, but she did finish second in state in the javelin at 1A last year and 4th in both her freshman and sophomore years in the javelin at 1A. So Gracie Reiner again for Osborne signing at Pitt State. You can read more again at ncksports.com. Thanks to Stephanie for sending me a picture as well.
Absolutely. Coming up, NHL playoffs, the Royals, my trip to the dentist, and a baseball team doing something that's never been done before. That's all coming up in 30.
Extended warranties on vehicles have become a very popular thing. You may have bought one, but what do you do to take advantage of the benefits when you need them? Keever Brothers Automotive in Beloit works with most all warranty contracts, and we can be your advocate when you need repairs. Just bring us your car, your concerns, and a copy of the warranty contract, and we take care of the rest. Let our fast, friendly service help you get the most out of your extended warranty contract. Find Keever Brothers Automotive just south of the courthouse in Beloit or on the web at keeverbrothers.com.
Nylander, breakaway to try and scores! William Nylander doubles out!
Maple Leafs force a Game 7 NHL playoffs as they win 2-1, and they win over the Bruins. So they force a Game 7 Eastern Conference in that series. Tonight, 2 games on the docket NHL playoffs. Canucks are up 3-2 on the Predators. Game 6 at 6 o'clock tonight, Nashville on TNT. Nothing says hockey like Nashville, Tennessee. Game 6 between the Golden Knights. Of course, Vegas isn't exactly, full of ice either. But Las Vegas Golden Knights and the Dallas Stars in Las Vegas tonight at 9 o'clock. Dallas up 3-2 in that series. The Royals are back on the diamond tonight at 6:40, starting a 3-game set with the Rangers at Kauffman Stadium. Royals enter at 19-13, Rangers 17-15. Defending World Series champion Rangers, and we're going to see them Sunday for a Royals bus trip. Looking forward to that. Brady Singer will make the start on the mound for the Royals. He's 2-1, ERA at 2.62. He'll face Michael Lorenzo on the Rangers, who's 2-1, ERA north of 4. And so it'll be a fun series between the Royals and the Rangers, a battle of the defending World Series champions and the soon-to-be new crowned World Series champion Kansas City Royals.
Dream big.
Why not? Dream small, and you're bound to limit yourself. A minor league baseball team is dreaming big as well. They're based in Colonial Heights, Virginia. They will become the first team to ever play a cosmic baseball game, as they will play a game on June the 1st under a special artificial lighting system with UV reactive equipment. The Tri-City Chili Peppers, awesome name. I am telling you, you want cool nicknames for your Pee-wee baseball teams or youth baseball teams, just look up some of the things that minor league teams are called. Savannah Bananas are an independent thing. They do a lot of really cool stuff, but there's some really cool names. The Tri-City Chili Peppers.
Man, we hit a realm that could be real fun. Like I'm like, let's call them the Ghost Peppers. That'd be fun to do like merch for, right?
Yeah, it would be.
Go ahead with the Chili Peppers.
You should be the marketing specialist for the Chili Peppers, or start your own minor league baseball team and call them the Ghost Peppers. The Tri-City Chili Peppers game will utilize black lights that will interact with UV reactive equipment, including uniforms, bats, caps, and balls, to create a glow-in-the-dark effect for both the Chili Peppers and their opponent. So, how cool is that? Glow-in-the-dark balls will be taking place at the baseball game June.
It'll be interesting, kind of like your glow ball golf or something.
Yeah, yeah. You know, for me, I would have to grab scuba gear and go grab that ball at the bottom of the water. If Johnny Furphy withdraws from the draft and returns to Kansas, all 13 scholarships will be filled with either proven or promising players for Bill Self's team next year. And even if Furphy stays in the draft, KU's still in pretty good shape. If you don't know what's been taking place, KU's absolutely rocked it in the transfer portal. Of course, I don't know how much money they're throwing out. But anyway, it's all legal. It's all legal now, by the way. KU has positioned itself for a return to Big 12 supremacy. They landed a blockbuster transfer haul. Of course, you have A.J. Storr from Wisconsin. He's really good. Rylan Griffin, who was on a Final Four team in Alabama. He's solid. Riley Kugel of Florida. Zeke Mayo of South Dakota State, the Summit League Player of the Year. All those guys can shoot. And Brian Haney told us, we asked, hey, what's Bill Self looking for in transfer portal? And Brian said, shooters, 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 and more shooters. And those are all shooters. And then DeJuan Harris coming back for his 16th year. And KJ Adams coming back. And then Hunter Dickinson is coming back. And Kansas is absolutely loaded on paper. So we'll see if it transforms into a lot of success. Of course, they were the preseason number one last year, and that didn't turn out so great. So to be continued.
Yeah.
And I want to share with you my trip to the dentist. So I'm not a big fan of needles. Of course, I don't know if anybody really is a fan of needles. When you really say that out loud, it kind of sounds like a stupid comment. But I'm not. Some people can handle needles way better than yours truly. And I'll share the story. I think I've shared it before on the show a few times, and I think I shared it when Mike was with us, which I went back and heard some old audio on a CD that I dubbed in. I let Dusty hear that, and maybe I'll play some segments when Mike Schramp back in 2009, me and Dusty and Mike, we had a lot of banter, and that was so much fun. Looking back on it, we didn't realize how much fun we had, and then I listened to that stuff, and I just start laughing. And we'll play it for our listeners. I think they might get a kick out of it, too. And so my wife, when she was pregnant with our first child, who is now a senior, is going to college, and he's almost done now. He's only got, 3 or 4 days left of school to get out. I think May 8th, the seniors do at Beloit. And it's hard to believe it goes by so quickly. And so the memory that we were talking about on the radio that I was listening to yesterday that Dusty got to hear was my senior now, who's going to be in college. When he was 3, he loved to jump in the snow, and there's 3-foot snow drifts. That was back in the day where I actually got snow. Way back in 2009, and then talked about how he got stuck in a 3-foot snowdrift. And Mike says during this whole thing, and I'll play this for people at some point down the line, but Mike said, yeah, he goes, you got to enjoy these stories because before you know it, they're a teenager. And it's so wild. I hear that, and before you know it, he's a senior. He's about ready to go to college. So that hits home as a parent. You know, things go by so quickly, and people say, well, you got to really enjoy it, and trust me. I remember when my oldest went into high school, and he was starting high school. They're like, "Oh man, high school is just going to go so fast. You just got you need to really soak it in." Blah blah blah. Then after the junior year, senior year is like twice as fast. You just soak it in, and you're sitting here like, okay, everybody's prepared you. Everybody's told you these things, and so I've tried to soak it in the best I can. And now I look back and I'm like, I didn't soak it in enough. And I don't think you ever feel like you probably did.
Everybody's going to say that.
Yeah, I think so.
That's not That's not anything different than probably everybody in your position has said.
I think so.
Yeah.
So we were talking about the snowdrift story with my son back when he was 3, back in 2009. When my wife was pregnant with him, so he was obviously not born yet, so he was 0 days old. My wife, they asked her if she wanted an epidural, or if she wanted the option of epidural, and she said yes. If you don't know what epidural is, it is a extremely long needle. I'm turning white as I talk about it. It is a very long needle. It looks like a sword. It's huge.
I didn't see the one they put in my back, but
you don't want to. So anyway, my wife is pregnant, carrying a 8-pound tub of lard in her body for 9 months. And me, I had the easy part. We'll leave it there. So we're driving from Seneca to Onega because nothing against the hospital in Seneca at the time where we lived, but there was a female doctor in Onega, and my wife really liked her. Her name was Dr. Zedek. I don't know where she is now. Very nice doctor, but she happened to be gone when my wife was going into labor. Mm-hmm. So it was in the middle of the night. It was probably like 2 a.m. or something like that. I don't know exactly the time. And so we're driving. And remember, all we had at the house was a cat. We had no kids. Mm-hmm. And just now, as I'm telling you the story, I'm like, dear God, I forgot what it was like not to have to worry. We always had to worry about a kid. So anyway, we're going to Onega, which is about a 25 minute drive, and it's 2 a.m. and it is dark, and my wife's in the passenger seat and I'm driving, and I'm talking with her, and she's got the hard part. She's focused on being a mom for the first time, and she's going to give birth to a child. We're going to have another human being in our household that we're responsible for, and we barely can take care of the cat. A little scary time when you're a parent. You're like, oh my God, this is real. I didn't think you were ever going to have the kid. What do you think I was going to do? Carry it for 10 years? Kinda. But, so anyway, we get to the hospital, and she was going in labor, and they said, okay, now you do want an epidural. And my wife's like, yeah, hell yeah. And I'm sitting in the chair. And remember, I've got the really important part. Everybody understands this. Guys, you can help me out and back me up. There is nothing harder than sitting in a chair watching your wife give birth. There's nothing harder than sitting there doing nothing while your wife does the easy part and giving birth to a child. There is nothing harder for a man to do in the world than to sit there and watch somebody take a gigantic needle and put it into your wife. And then you, the man, or in this case, this guy named Wade, suddenly turns whiter than the white paint on the wall in the room. And suddenly the staff, the nurses who were taking care of my wife, who's about ready to give birth to our first child, looks over at me and goes, oh, dear Lord, are you okay? Oh, what do you mean? You don't look so good. You look as pale as that wall. And I was sweating. They had to come over and take care of me. Yes, you can call me any word you want. I will accept it. Wuss. There's another word that rhymes with wuss. Whatever else. Yep, that is me. Now, had I never seen the epidural needle, that would have not happened. But I saw it.
Yeah.
I was not prepared for how big that epidural needle was. And once again, it's all about me. Don't care that the needle's going into my wife's body and not me. I saw it. I'm the one about ready to die because that needle looks like it could kill 1,000 people. So she gets the epidural. Eventually, I'm good enough to where I'm better, and I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. I'm like, my wife is way tougher than me, and I felt so embarrassed that they're worried about me sitting in a chair twiddling my thumbs while my wife's trying to give birth to 7-pound, 10-ounce baby boy. So we have the baby, obviously, and now almost 18 years later, he's going to go to college. So I was going through some old stuff, trying to put together a scrapbook for our oldest for graduation. I've been procrastinating. I've got just the senior year left, but that's going to be the most stuff, so I still need to get it finished. I'm working on it little bit by little bit. And I came across this card, and it was our deepest sympathy card. I'm like, this is weird. Why is this in Noah's box of stuff? So I looked, and it was from a couple of my coworkers at the time up in Seneca. And let me read this for you. Quite frankly, the baby card selection was terrible, so we decided to call an audible. So raise your glasses and let's remember the things that used to be. Sleeping all night. Tables for two. Only having to feed yourself. Partying all night, also known as cosmic bowling nights. Cars without a car seat. Oh yeah. Last minute plans. Bypassing baby aisles and diaper sections. Spontaneous or noisy lovemaking. Uninterrupted TV time. Nickelodeon rocks. Colorful vocabulary. Ignoring changing tables in public restrooms. The ability to be on time. That one is the best one. And then they said, we want you to know how sorry we are about your loss. We're keeping you in our thoughts. And then they say, joking, congratulations, we're excited for you, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sitting there like, that is a good sympathy card, because your old life is just ended as soon as my wife gave birth to our first child. That was when our life completely changed. And that's obviously true for anybody else that has become a parent. So you're sitting there going, how is this tied to the dentist? So I'm in the dentist chair, and I've got to get some fillings or fix something. My teeth are some sensitivity. I figure I might as well get this done. So they do the procedure to numb my left side, then eventually numb my right side. And anyway, I know a needle is coming because they got to inject the Novocaine or whatever the heck they call it to numb that area. And I think literally the eyes in my head went to the back of my head, because I was fighting so hard as I'm laying back. Whatever you do, whatever you do, whatever you do, whatever you do, do not look to where you can see the needle that's about ready to go into your mouth. I had flashbacks of the epidural needle, okay? Not a big fan of needles. And then you're like, okay, did they numb everything the right way to where I will not feel this injection? And she says, just concentrate on your breathing. I'm like, oh my God, that's what they told my wife when she was having a baby. It's like I'm going through birth again. Labor, childbirth. Actually, no, it's a little bit different, Wade. Your teeth are being worked on, and there's not as big a needle, and your wife's not on the operating table, blah, 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 or not operating table, but although years later she was when we had our second child. And that was a whole different story for another day that most of you probably already heard. But I had flashbacks in the dentist chair yesterday of the needle, not wanting to see it, flashbacks of how I was the biggest wimp in the entire world and became the center point of the focus of the nurses, while my wife's going, what the hell are you looking at him for? I'm the one giving birth. But that's what happened to me. So when I know a needle is going to be injected or put into me, I will not look. I will do everything in the world possible. I will break my back, literally. So bend in which way ever I got to do to where I cannot see the needle. I had a colonoscopy recently. There's a story for another day. But they put your IV in, blah, blah, blah. And I'd never been under in my entire life. I'd never had anesthesia in my entire life. And I didn't even know when I was first looking into having a colonoscopy, I didn't think they put you under. And once I heard they did, I'm like, thank God. Thank God. Because you know what a colonoscopy is all about and what actually happens. I don't think you want to be awake for that. I will say, though, I do wonder when you're out what they say, the doctors and nurses, so they can deal with their job first thing in the mornings when they do some of these colonoscopies and other surgeries. When people are out, like, what comments do they make? I've wondered that. I don't want to know what they say. Wow, he's got a hairy butt, or whatever it might be. Okay, I'll end with that visual. But what's so funny was I thought about that recently, and then the Super Bowl came about. What the hell does the Super Bowl got to do with colonoscopy, Wade?
Kind of where I'm at.
Here we go. So the Super Bowl happens, and it's or not the Super Bowl. It was the I'm sorry, beg your pardon. It was the NFL playoff game between the Dolphins and the Chiefs, which you had to get Peacock. You had to subscribe to Peacock, correct? So I had to pay the $6.99 or $5.99. You know, people around here acting like they're going to go completely broke when they just spent $15 on cigarettes, but $5.99, that's going to break me. Or they got a $6 ice cream treat, but they can't pay 30 days to get a game and everything comes with it. Woohoo! So I paid the $5.99, whatever it was, and remember the show that was going to be coming on right after on Peacock that they were promoting after the Chiefs-Dolphins game?
I don't anymore.
It was Ted, the series
Okay,
Ted. Remember the movie Ted with Mark Wahlberg?
Yeah,
but this is going back to when he was in high school. So Ted, the bear, who comes to life, of course, this is a completely true story, factual show. No fiction involved. So anyway, so I'm like, what the heck? I'll go ahead and start watching that show a little bit. I paid the money. I'll watch it a little bit. Next thing I know, I binge watched the 8 episodes. One of the episodes is when the dad does not want to go in for whatever procedure he was going to go in for. And he's like, if they put me under, I'm going to talk about the war and all these horrible things, and people are going to know things that I did and so forth and so on and blah, blah, blah. And so somehow he gets his I don't know if it's a niece. I think a niece is staying with him. And he wants her to go because he wants her to sneak into the operating room so that she makes sure that he doesn't say anything against, and all these secrets come out. And they won't let her into the room. And he's like, you got to go. And they get to the hospital, whatever. And he's like, you got to find a way to get in there. Because they asked, and nope, sorry, nobody can go in there. So she sneaks underneath the table, the rolling cart that you're on, okay, or under the bed that they roll you into the operating room. She sneaks under there. And they go in, close the doors, and they said, all right, you're going to feel this, you're going to be out in 5 seconds or whatever. And so he's out, and that's true. I just had anesthesia not too long ago. I'm like, oh, you're going to be done in about 5 seconds. Like, wow, it's the greatest sleep I've ever had. That was pretty awesome. And next thing you know, you wake up and all's done. You don't hear anything. But the gal, his niece that's in this show, on this episode, okay, he's out. She is underneath that bed while they're working on him. He is under the anesthesia. And as soon as and it's so funny episode, as soon as they say, oh, okay, is he out? Yeah, he's out. Oh my God, look at the bleep on this guy. And they start making fun of him. And she's hearing all of this because they don't know she's underneath the bed hearing all of this. And then she's got to deal with this traumatic stuff that she hears. And I'm thinking, is that what happened during my colonoscopy? I mean, it crossed my mind. I'm like, did that happen? So I guess what I'm trying to tell you is I don't do well with doctors. The dentist, doctor, I usually say doctor for the dentist. I did not do well when doctors weren't even working on me when my wife was having our first child. And I did extremely well once they put me out, from what I understand. But who knows what they said about me while I was right there having the procedure done. But I am just, obviously they put a needle into me so they can put the anesthesia in and whatever fluids they put in my IV. I've got these huge veins. I've got, every time somebody wants to poke me or do this or whatever over the years, they're like, oh, you have such great veins. I'm like, yeah, thanks. It's like they're vampires and they want to suck on my blood. Oh, you have these great huge veins and I'd like to stick this with a gigantic epidural needle. Please don't. Bad memories. But I do. I have these huge veins. They're very easy to... I'm like, if you miss my vein, you suck at what you do. You literally suck at what you do, and you should not do what you're doing. If you can't hit my vein, I can't imagine hitting people that have really tough veins to hit. That would be tough.
My mom is like that.
They poke you multiple times, and they hate to do it. They're trying to do the best they can. They see me, and they tighten up, like, oh my gosh, you have these unbelievable veins. And then I start looking at them, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of grossing me out, and I'm starting to get pale again. So I don't do well with doctors very often. But the dentist yesterday, I felt the needle just a little bit, and I'm like, thank God I didn't see it, or I might have just puked right there in the bed. Chair.
These are fears that I don't have, fortunately, because I've had to deal with a lot of that.
Yes, you have.
It's always funny because, like, when I was going through what I was going through about 10 years ago now, it's hard to believe that, but
it is.
When I first got admitted into the hospital, they were drawing probably 3 times a day from me for blood. And so, but there's a perfect spot that I've got on my right arm that's there to get it, right? But I've seen my mom have to deal with that, and then they were putting in an IV, and the one person just didn't know how to do it. I don't think, because it took her 3 tries, and she's like, "I'm gonna get somebody else," and I'm like, "Yeah, that'd be great."
Right, exactly.
Although I'm not afraid of this, I would just like to not be poked any more than I have to be.
Right.
And so we found one, and man, Ashley she was in there and out in like half a minute. It's like maybe a minute and a half, but whatever. It was quick. She knew what she was doing, and she knew where to find it. And so, on IVs, you're going to put it in obviously a different spot than where you're going to draw from, but. So every time, then like a week into the hospital, the phlebotomist or whoever's doing my blood would say, you're going to feel just a little pinch or a little sting. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm like, you guys have been doing this too long. I don't even feel it anymore. Like, it literally, like, for a year and a half, I didn't even feel the needle go in anymore.
Yeah,
when they were drawing blood from me, because it's just had happened so much. I did not see the long needle. The only time I did that was for a spinal tap, which I highly do not recommend anybody do.
That doesn't sound good.
And then I got the headaches and had to have another needle put in my back and a blood patch so the headaches would go away. And so I've gone, and then when you talk about the anesthesia, obviously while I was in the hospital, they took a chunk out of my leg to have a biopsy, right?
Oh, yes.
To make sure everything was all right. So they put me under for that.
Good times.
And then obviously with my collarbone, they put me under to put the plate in and have that surgery. So everything you're talking about there, I'm like, yep, done that. It's wild. They did not give me a 5-second countdown. They wheeled me in and prepped me, and I was asleep at some point. And it's like, and then like the crazy thing about that is like you just forget everything for like a little bit of a stretch before you go under. Mm-hmm. And it's like, what happened in this stretch
right
from here to here? Because I know at some point they had to have taken me into the operating room.
Sure. Right. Absolutely.
While I was still awake.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, with a collarbone, I wake up and I'm like, I'm coming to, and they're like, well, we're just finishing up and everything like that. And you wake up and they're like, yeah, we're going to get you something to eat and something to drink. We'll get you out of here. And it's like, I'm not eating a single thing right now. I might drink a little bit, but both of the times that I've been under anesthesia, it's like I feel like not eating at all right now. Like,
right.
We're not doing that. Of course, the first time I did it, I was inpatient, so I just went back up to my hospital room. But yeah, all that stuff is like, man, it's not PTSD, but it's like, it's not fun stuff.
Well, I had to go at first thing in the morning. It was early in the morning to get prepped and everything. So I was the opposite. When I came to, you're like, hey, here's some toast. And what kind of, what do you, I'm like, heck yeah, I'm hungry.
Well, and I couldn't eat. I was the late one too. So I couldn't eat from midnight until my surgery was done at like 5 o'clock with my collarbone.
Yeah.
And so I was the opposite. I was the last one in the room. Right. The bad thing was I couldn't take my pain pills that day.
Yeah,
with a compound fracture in my shoulder here or my collarbone, and it's like, but all that stuff is wild. Yeah, luckily I'm not afraid of needles, so because that would have been a disaster having to get all that blood drawn when I did, and I still do it today, but it's only once every 6 months or so.
The worst part for me of the colonoscopy procedure is the cleaning out process, because you got to go to the bathroom a million times and you got to drink this huge bottle or whatever, you mix it, whatever, blah, 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 follow instructions. So I'm like, man, you clean yourself out. That's worse than actual, the prep. And then, the easy part is the actual procedure, because you're out. You don't do nothing.
I say the joke, can I just go to Taco Bell and get this done? Why do I have to drink this?
Well, I'll share one more. It's Friday share and tell, I guess. In school you have share and tell. Dusty and I doing share and tell on the sports ticket here at the end, but they got me thinking of another quick story. So you're talking about cleaning out your system. You mentioned Taco Bell, which luckily we don't have a local Taco Bell here. They resent that.
Yeah.
Or they'd be like, yeah, it's true.
Hey,
but we when I was at Pittsburgh State, so Gracie Reiner, when you go to Pitt State, you can let me know if it's still there. But there was a place called Taco Station. Not Taco Bell, Taco Station. Taco Bell's for the rich. Taco Station. And so it was at Pittsburgh State, kind of off the main drag. And so when you go out with your friends, and we went out and we partied, or we did our whatever, went to the bars, went to the restaurants, whatever. And then, when it's closing time, you leave the bars. Taco Station was open, because when you've had a few drinks and you've been dancing the night away or whatever you're doing, and it's 2 a.m., before you go home, and us college kids, let's admit, we usually don't have much in the fridge. So you're craving food. You're hungry. And you don't have much money in college. Well, Taco Station to the rescue. Taco Station had a deal. I kid you not. It was 10 tacos for like $1. 10 tacos for $1. Dude, you're never going to get that ever again. And if you do, you should investigate
you better
investigate what's in the tacos.
What they're making,
yeah. So, 2 a.m. in the morning, we go through drive-through at Taco Station. There's this long line of people.
Well, yeah, for that deal, you can't pass it up.
Well, and it's 2 a.m. in the morning, nothing else is open.
Yeah, exactly.
So we get in line and we get these tacos, and you get 10 tacos, and every one of us in the car got the big old brown bag sack of tacos. And then what happens? We go back to the house, and we don't even we snarf them down. Oh, man, these are so good. Oh, man, I'm so glad Taco Station is open. I am so hungry. So after doing that a few times at my time at Pittsburgh State, just a few, I was going down the main drag, and it was around lunchtime, and I saw Taco Station. you know what?
Give it a shot.
I'm kind of hungry. I've never had Taco Station except at 2 in the morning. What the hell? I'll give it a whirl. So I got the 10 tacos for $1 or whatever it was, and took them back to the house. Took a bite. What the hell is this?
What am I eating?
This is horrible. I was like, I ate this stuff? Yes, you did. And you probably ate 50 of them over the course of a few months. But, yeah, that's the rude awakening. So maybe that would have been what would have cleaned me out if I needed a colonoscopy back then. Would have been Taco Station.
There's been a place around here that people know that what I'm talking about that we always knew.
There was one place in particular.
I'm going to say it out loud, but
there's a chicken.
People that know.
There was a chicken involved. We'll leave it at that. Every time we'd eat there.
That is definitely, if you know, everybody puts those things on.
Oh, every time
IYKYK, right, on social media.
Right. Every time we ate at this establishment in the area, and we would go out as it was you, me, and Mike, or it'd be just Dusty and me, or just Mike and me. And the food was awesome. We really loved it. And we ate it, and it was a good deal. And we'd come back, and it was a race to see who could hit the bathroom first, because you did not want to be second.
I'll unlock the door here real quick.
I think one time I'm like, hey, Mike, I left something in the car. Boom! I ran in, and he fell for it. I'm like, boom, sucker! And now I'll pay for what I just ate. That's kind of how Taco Station was as well. Oh, great memories, good times. Long needles and colonoscopies and numbing of your face and cleaning out your system with tacos. It's just, you never know where the show will go at all.
Fun sports day.
It was a fun sports day. Competitive eating, apparently, is what we should go into. That will help clean out our system. I will say it also, the numbness on my face. Like, I didn't want to eat anything because I knew I'd like bite my lip off. My lip felt like 6 inches thick. And then I'm like, good thing I'm a person that bites my lip, or I'd be cutting up my lip because I wouldn't even feel it. And so I felt like somebody that like somebody that had Botox in their lips or something. That's how my lips felt. I was so numb. And about 2:30, it all wore off, and I was able to eat something. But I tried to have a sip of water out of my blender bottle over here. And I think I got one drop. I'm like, yeah, this isn't going to go well. I better wait till it all wears off.
It reminds me of, I don't know if you've ever seen Christmas with the Cranks or not.
Okay,
but they do, Tim Allen does Botox in that movie. And like, he's trying to eat, and it's like pineapple, and everything just keeps falling out of his mouth because he can't feel it.
Oh, yeah. Good times. Yeah. Okay. There's a few times I felt like, what is this? Am I drooling? What is? I did not know. But, and that all because of a needle. Have a great day.
State, regional, and national sports talk on your schedule. The Sports Ticket Podcast. Subscribe via Apple, Google, and TuneIn Podcasts or sunflowerstateradio.com.